We were actually.
Yeah. That working?
I don't know. I need myself. It says we're screening volume.
Featuring Amber Melody. Oh, oh, maybe you record afterward, or just stream right now, I don't know, where's Lucas?
Oh, it's on the thing. He just said to start it.
Okay,
I think we're good.
Okay. Okay, welcome everyone to April 3rd, committee of the whole meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and we also start with our land acknowledgement. Municipality please recognizes that our work takes place when the additional indigenous territories, including the Huron land, that Anishinaabe and the Northern Shoshone people. We recognize and respect the history, languages, and cultures of the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit and all Indigenous people whose presence continues to enrich our community. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this one of things? Thank you, Council for get any comments on the agenda? Being done, be it resolved that the agenda for the April 3rd, 2025 committee of the whole be presented all in favor. Thank you. I'm going to need the statement of preliminary. Being done. Today, could I have, we're going to be looking at our asset management plan. I just wanted to say a couple of things before we begin. As everyone like well aware, we've been talking about our asset management plan for quite some time. In fact, that in addition to the operations and regular capital funds that we put aside for the operations of our municipality, according to our asset management plan, which is a tool that looks at all of the infrastructure costs that we have within a community. That includes both roads, which is facilities, this municipal office, hamlet, halls, the library, arena, parks, also includes our vehicles, so snow plows and tandem trucks and lawnmowers, all of that stuff. And so when you look at all of that together, it's a plan that we are required to put together by the provincial government. It's something that we've been doing for a couple of years. We just updated ours this year, and according to our asset management plan, after that earnings bout of inflation that we all went through a couple of years ago, our asset management plan says that we have put away $13.5 million per year for the next 15 years. That's in addition to our operating budget that we currently have in place. So it's an impossible feat. I think everybody will recognize that because it represents 13.5 million, as I said, for a year, and it's absolutely out of question. So the province has said, now that you all have your management plans in place, by July 1st of this year, you have to come up with a financial plan about how you're going to address each of the things coming down your pipeline for the next couple of years. So we're looking at 10 years. And we're going to be looking at some of the things we've got coming down. We're going to have to make some extremely hard decisions. This is the first kick at the can. We're going to be looking at what we got coming down for years. Are they going to be something that we can tend to? Like we can tend to it. How are we going to fix it or replace it? And where are we going to get the money? And then this is just the first stage. As I say, kick at the can. There will be a probably, and I think CAO plans to walk us through this. There will likely be a survey, getting your input into the process. There will, once we get that, then we'll likely have a community hall or community stakeholder meeting where we look at what we're going to have to do. But let's rest assured, and everybody knows there is no way that we are going to be able to raise an additional 13.5 million in addition to the right now 6.3 million we bring in with your tax money right now. So I'm going to turn it over to CAO Pender. He has been spending a long time getting this going in the right direction, and he's going to walk us through what lies ahead and the plan. Thank you very much, Kelly.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just a reminder, we are a committee of the whole, which means that we don't make decisions based on the recommendations of the full council, which gives us what we call in the business so perceptive audit. So it is truly meant to be
my famous question. Sorry, I don't know if Heather was on. I'm sorry, go ahead.
This is truly meant to be a discussion and to get council's input into what the next steps would be. But any decisions another year will have to go to the council for final approval. And with the mayor's direction, I have a few slides here that's going to recap some of the discussions, but frame some of the questions. We can go through them and have questions while we're doing or questions after, whatever the mayor wishes at this point. So begin with just a couple of notes, and the mayor said this as well. This is a provincial limit. Having said that, knowing what your assets are and what you have to pay for them is always an important aspect of any business, not just government, but for any business. So it is a provincial initiative. We will go through the efforts, make our best guess, and come up with a plan. But as the mayor so eloquently said, it is highly unlikely that we will be able to come up with a plan that balances service delivery with the ability to pay. Second, I'd like to note that the numbers that we provide today are order of magnitude. They will continually be adjusted. For example, we just received a road speed study, and that number is jiggled a little bit. Inflation on things that municipalities do is always above inflation that homeowners feel, because we're using a lot of petroleum products, gas, oil, construction cost indexes are always higher than the consumer price index. So this isn't a perfect science. We're using the best estimates that we have, and we'll work with these numbers.
Thank you very much. You just reminded me of something too. I was taking a course at the last Roman conference for Jim Fine from that. And they had indicated, just as you said, the inflation would typically lead policy and guides us is not what municipalities experience. In fact, they had referenced the industrial, the non-industrial import price index, and it was around 9%. Okay, so you're right. Our inflation is much higher than everybody else's.
So the regulation lists 11 things that need to be completed prior to July 1st. And just one point of caution, let's use July 1st as a target, but let's work to get it flight. If it takes till August the 1st, I don't think that the province is going to come in and slap our wrists. But we need to take a concerted effort, and we're aiming for July 1st. But I think everybody in the room agrees we want to get it right rather than get it done. So there are a number of things that we need to do, and most of these things we'll be talking about this afternoon. And that will allow us to determine what our community engagement plan is going to look like, which is required under the regulation, as well as what the parameters of our finance plan. So just this is the same slide that was presented a few weeks back when we began the discussion. The tenure requirement across all assets, including solid waste, water supply, and wastewater, which are rate funded, is 165 million. So 16.5 million per year. The ones that are on the tax rate, it's 13.5 million per year for the next 10 years, recognizing the inflation level that higher. We are in the process of looking at the water rates and the wastewater rates. Our friends at Bucklow will be providing us with an estimate to do that. It is a requirement under the Clean Water Act that we review our rates for water and wastewater, and that they not be supported by tax dollars, and that's why we've got a part of them. And our costs under solid waste, the tag reserve, which is intended to close the asset at the end of its life. And at some point in the next 3 years, we'll probably not be able to do that as part of the process. So this truly is a balancing act, and we put it into 4 different buckets. How much money do we require? It's 13.5 million per year. What can we afford? Which is a council decision, consult the consultation of the community. What service level will we provide, and the regulation requires that we establish a target. Our engineering consultant review has provided where we stand, but we're required to propose where we want to go. And what compromises are we prepared to make? Are we prepared to let the quality of our roads decline so that the quality of others is going to improve.
Peter, morning.
So the purpose of today, engage council in a free-flowing discussion regarding the parameters and decisions that are required to finalize the plan. Review the prior asset management commitments. We have made commitments in a bylaw that this council passed last August. Select target rate increases for capital investment and chart a course for public consultation. Again, none of these decisions are going to be finalized. They're going to be finalized in the plan in July, but we need a place to begin the discussions. Things can go up, and things can go down, things come back. So there is a strong relationship between capital and operations. And here's where, typically in a municipality, we'll deal with their operating budget, we'll deal with their capital budget. And at the end of the day, we'll merge that into an overall tax rate. But the two are connected. So for example, fewer and newer facilities require less operating dollars than an aging facility. We just had a water leak in this building, and we're probably at about $18,000. In a new building, most things don't happen, so you've got time to adapt. Most of our assets are aging and more expensive to maintain. So new buildings, new vehicles can also help with our greenhouse gas emissions. The province and the feds wants to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and that is a requirement that we report on each year to the province. It's really important to understand that properly implemented, it can slow or delay the need for more staff. So that's a brand new building requires less maintenance. It requires less heating to make things to keep it hot, to keep it cold. So there is that relationship as well. It's very difficult for us to evaluate the percent usage for single purpose building. Arenas are a good example. And Jay's hiding the car, keep it up now. Most arenas are busy evenings during the week and busy on weekends. 3 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, we don't need a twin pad arena. Could we use a twin pad arena for evenings and weekends? We could probably do a pretty good job of filling it. So it's really hard to balance usage in a single purpose building. The more multi-purpose a building becomes, the more you're able to balance the needs of the community with staffing. So staffing can be centralized. They can be looking at for a birthday party in one room, while somebody else is cleaning washrooms at the other end, and that can work back and forth. So multi-purpose buildings are far more efficient to operate and have a higher percentage of use than single-purpose buildings. So it really becomes a staffing issue because it's difficult to balance daytime, night, weekend staffing in single-purpose buildings because we're always looking at short shifts. So this is another aspect of capital is related to operating is related to capital, not to capital. Simple example, and Ryan and I have been talking to our counterparts at Aqua about meter reading. Currently, we now do. We have a meter reader who goes out, he reads the meter, he writes it down, he hands it to somebody else who inputs that there are 4 potential points of error. It takes about 12 to 15 days every 2 months. Remote reading takes about however long it will take to run around the community, let's say a morning. It is accurately uploaded and the bills can be presented that day. You're saving $12 to $15 days per year of staff time. And we tend to think of staff time as not having a cost. But I think you need to also think about that there's an opportunity cost. If they weren't doing that, what else would they be doing? So, a public works employee who's also doing meter reading could be cutting brush, could be patching roads, could be doing flagging. There are opportunities that the person doing the inputting, could be doing other things, could be working on tax sales, for example. So we create opportunities by being more efficient. And I think we all understand that bold or broken down vehicles equipment will impede their ability to deliver services to our citizens. This winter we had 2 snowplows, one which we completely decommissioned and another that was out of whack for a couple of weeks. So technical. out of commission for a couple of weeks, so older equipment breaks in the happen and impedes our ability to. So we have made prior commitments, in 2020. We were required to adopt a debt management policy. The provincial cap is 25% of our own source revenues. Council established that our cap would be 15%. And it counts both leases and borrowing towards that. So for example, if you lease a fire truck, it counts towards your debt, which is much as if you purchase. So, the public sector accounting board PSAB requirements are very clear in terms of leasing. You're not getting away from having that capacity. Last year in August, we passed bylaw 2466, the adoption of the strategic asset management policy that committed us to doing a lot of things. And they're going to say, it was an extremely well written bylaw. It covered all of the bases. We're probably doing about 30% of what we committed to do. The cost to manage this asset management program is very significant. It takes time on the staff side to calculate it. It takes time on finance to do all of the calculations and input to do into the budget. And we're also required to change the way we procure things so that we are looking at the total cost of ownership, which is a completely new concept for most smaller municipalities. In the city of Ottawa and the city of Toronto, been doing it straight for years. We've never taken a look at two snowplows and said this one's going to cost this much over 10 years, this one's going to cost that much. So that's a completely different mind shift and a completely different skill set than we currently have. Municipality, and maybe one of those things that you want to talk to leaders about jointly share. We're required to do it. It's going to be part of the audit function. Are you keeping up with all of your commitments towards asset management? And our auditors have been commenting on that. And quite frankly, at this point, we don't have the staff or the technology to do that adequately. And I just listed 7 or 8 things that we're supposed to do. Service levels. The regulation requires that we set service levels and targets to be achieved. So as part of the Greenview study last year, Greenview went through all of our asset classes and suggested here's what your service levels are based on what the regulation says. And actually the next slide, we'll have a look at what the service levels are. And council is going to have to decide if you want to maintain that, in which case we're going to need $13.5 million per year, or are we willing to decrease commitments?
Now you mentioned that the standards regulation guiding us and setting what service level. Can we just change those, or do we have to still abide by them?
You still have to abide by them, but you can change. And probably the easiest thing is just go to the next slide. So Greenview determined that our roads were being operated at a service level 4. The regulation describes how you get to a service level. We could decide that we want to move that to a level 5 because roads are our highest. I don't think my roads is just a good point. So we could decide that roads we want to move to 3 so that we can increase bridges. So we've got roads at 4, bridges and culverts at 2, and that falls into the 4 class. Water, wastewater, stormwater, buildings, facilities, and solid waste. So we've got a number of different categories that we're going to look at where we could provide compromises. And what the regulation requires us to do is to recreate this slide with the service levels that council.
So
This one.
probably pick one road instead of, say, I'm gonna pick on bridges. So if we say we want to service level 2. Is there a bridge inspections according to what our service level is, or are they just stand alone?
Standalone, different, yeah, it's apples and oranges.
Okay, that's what.
Yeah, I mean, OSM just determines, you know, how safe a bridge is and what kind of condition it is, so there's no time at all. Well, it'll ultimately measure what the time which you do.
Through the mayor, we should have, like, so we have our number here, and I'll. take this number. When it says something like roads, at a 4. Does that mean both the like the Apple side of that road and the maintenance side?
No,
Or
it's just strictly
just the Apple?
the condition assessment. So that's our roads needs study went through and gave a condition assessment for each site in the road.
And that road, service level varies according to the type of road.
Correct. So,
So not all roads are 4.
in total, we're a 4, which means that we're maintaining them in a good condition.
Like if we take our hot asphalt road, like example of Brooklyn Road, and put it into like a different, like a hard top, a certain tar and chip, right? Like say we go to tar and chip, that producing material. Or is it going, or is
It's going to be how you maintain it. So for example, you could take a surface paved road, pulverize it, return it to gravel, but it's maintained in an adequate condition
so it's
for
not,
that class of road.
okay, but reducing class doesn't change our level of service.
No, because the amount of capital dollars that you put into a gravel road is different from the capital you put into the hospital. So a certain street of road generally for the last 10 years or 5 years, maintenance period, a gravel road is re-gravel and grading.
Ryan, you want-
Yeah, sorry.
I don't speak right into that.
I know, I have a hard time with that. Yeah, through the mayor, it's just based on how much we maintain that road. So whether it goes down to an LCD instead of an HCD, as long as we're keeping up with that maintenance, that determines the service level.
Yeah, what you said. So it's a service level depending on the road which you go.
I guess to briefly if I may, so that I can get the little brain wrapped around this. So something like winter maintenance doesn't affect that.
No.
Because the guys are gonna go out and.
It's capital based, right? Not maintenance based.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, I should.
That's why I'm
it
getting,
does
that's
hurt.
where you're losing points on a gravel road, on that.
Yeah, so a gravel road, we got a, on the operating side, you're gonna be grading it 3 times a year, 2 times a year. You're gonna be doing dust suppression, you're gonna be doing the shoreline. On the surface treated road. You're gonna be doing patching. So that's our key question is, do you want to move any of those? And the subset of that is within each class, what can we do within that class? And we'll go through some of those options as we go through each class.
The one that, I wanted to mention about, like, because we know there are some bridges. If we want to ensure that our bridges last longer. Would it be in our best interest to reduce the tonnage on the number of bridges? And as long as we allow fire trucks and school buses and ambulances. Would that help us in any way?
To the mayor, yeah, we can set our own tonnage levels. That's our choice. We typically set them by what an engineer provides us, and we go with that just to be safe. But there's no reason we couldn't lower them to try and extend the life of these assets as well. That's definitely
So
not.
that would be a way that we would spread out and over a greater time bridges that we have to attend to.
And that's a typical strategy for, say, your 10 or 12 hires fire lower that. Just lower those amounts.
Thank you.
So just beginning with roads, it's about 24 million over the next 10 years. And like I said, we just got the last study. That number closer to 30 million.
So through the mayor, our number was in 2019, I believe it was 21 million. At this point is 42 million to maintain current service levels. So basically double.
So that's why it takes. And Ryan have put together, a basic outline of what you could do. You could replace like for like. So an asphalt road with an asphalt road. You can move to a higher standard, which will lower the maintenance and down the relationship with capital operation. You could lower the standard, for example, pulverize, usually a high quality of gravel. You can use new technology and what is it's called ever light. You can close the road, you can sell the road. So those are the kinds of things that we want to build into the plan that says, when we're looking at our 5-year capital plan, because we're going to do 5-year capital plan, here's what we're going to do with the roads. These ones we're going to do like for like. These ones we're going to pulverize, these ones we're going to try to. And constantly making those decisions, then the number gets recalibrated.
So for example, we were looking at Clinton Road. Clinton Road has now become a dual fare road. You get GPS directing you from Highway 41 to 7 and vice versa up through Clinton Road. So we're getting a lot of increased truck traffic and everything on a municipal road. So if, and we've applied for funding from the government to help address that, and we've been denied. So if I'm just saying this right now. So in order to preserve the life of that road, we could reduce the speed limit. We could say no trucks are allowed, but it then becomes a matter of monitoring and how you manage that. Or we could say we're going to turn that into a gravel road. Okay, and so when you're looking at that, okay, so you say you're going to move from a paved road to a gravel road, and I think, well, we're looking at 800 and some thousand for leaving the road. As a paved road.
Yeah, to do the Everlight portion of half that road, it was 800, so it would be 1.5 million to do the whole thing in Everlight.
Okay, so then say, now I'm not saying we're making this decision, but say we decided, okay, we can do not have 1.5 million. To fix a road that now people are using as a regular shortcut transportation route. And not getting any compensation, or as even a detour route, as came up in our last council meeting. A place detouring, there's an accident on Highway 7 or the other. If we turned it to gravel, just saying, what would that cost when you're looking at 1.5, say 1.5 million?
Roughly. Yeah, something like that. For us, we wouldn't be able to go in and actually pulverize it ourselves. Some roads we can if they're in really bad shape. We could get a pulverizer in there. It's about 50 to 80 cents a square meter to do something like that. But it would be essentially 5%. Not even 5%, be absolutely minimal compared to the reconstruction
Okay,
cost.
that's, I'm just trying to say, so that if we have to make some judgment call that we got road that we want to fix, and we're not going to get help with certain roads. Then we could really cut a big grip off of that. What we're looking at, chunk of coin off those streets, like this way.
But just going to hypothetical,
Yeah.
road issue, and I know it's not the same, but they made up, but now we don't road is that. So we pulverize Clinton Road, that costs us money, right? And then, so let's say it's 15 kilometers. Then every other year, we're putting down gravel. Every year, we're grading it twice a week. Every year, we're putting down dust suppression.
Correct.
So it would be, I think the comparison would be the pulverizing it. And all of those regular operations over 10 years.
I think that goes back to what Kelly was talking about, the maintenance schedule, and when you do it, yes, no, that's exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and here's where the tipping point is. At what point do you have to buy another grader and have another operator?
Right.
It still may be the best financial decision, but that will be something that Brian will do.
And see, like when you're making those decisions. If you're looking at the nature, okay, so you say, you're gonna do that, you're gonna go, pulverize the program. And then, like, when do you bring down, like, how do you link everything together, just what you said? Hey, we're gonna have to use the grader more, and the grader will wear out faster, how do you pull it all together? Like, to show that you're making the right decision.
Yeah, so many larger municipalities will do what's called a business proposal for council that says, here is the cost to resurface it with everyone. Here is the cost that we do. here is the cost to pulverize it, and here's the cost to maintain it, and you get to the bottom line and you go, okay. I may be spending more in year one and less in year 10 in total. That gives you your option. And that's the way the province wants us to look at what is the total cost of ownership.
I think when you look at what we got here for 10 years, I mean, we just focus on year 1, 2, and 3 first, because 10 years is good. Getting this done by July first.
Yeah, at this point, we're just gonna set the service level. So, for example, let's go back to that one slide. If we said that we are going to decrease roads from 4 to 3, when we're talking about. Then the narrative part of that would be that every time we look at a road, here is what we're going to look at, and we're gonna take the best option. That maintains the, or achieves the service level at the lowest possible. Well, we're at, we probably should have to this list. Over the weight limit.
Weight limit and truck traffic.
And truck traffic. So people get this.
Weight limits, speed limits. And truck traffic. So it's what it's talking.
Well, you were, most of our roads are built for heavy wear. Heavy truck traffic. If we liberalize those, I think we should go, we can try to get forward. Liberalize. Instead of doing regular width of the road, you should go to a maximum width. So that we can get the water away from the edge of the road, or the gravel portion of the road is, because we need to. Once it starts to get water underneath it, and we get the gravel over it, water can go. So that's another thing we need to look at, it's gonna change that number at the top, quite a bit.
Well, it's number is now 42.
And I know, but it's gonna change it here, but at the end of the day, life expectancy of that road is what we're actually looking at.
That's right, and it's still back to the temper level, that's, I mean, then you make it sometimes. And it becomes that much, you go, hey, figure it out.
Yep.
Okay, yes,
So if you were to make a decision, to say, hey, like, we're not, we're not gonna say, we're not making decisions, so we're gonna do their part. If we were to make a decision to go from a hardship road to a fall rise, it's not gonna be an easy pivot, should the next town decide they wanna create the service level from R3 to their 4. Because public works is gonna purchase equipment according to our service level. Like, it's gonna be a very hard pivot in that thought.
It could be, like I said, there's a tipping point where the same amount of equipment, the same amount of staff, we're just adding the model, but we're not adding the radio, not adding the operator. We're probably just making everybody do that works. But if we're gonna pulverize another 50 gallons, then we're probably looking at. Stuff.
But if, I guess that was the wrong example, but if we said we want to lower the service level on those sections 2 and 3. Is it hard for the next council or us to say, we're not happy with this, we want to pivot back up to a 4? Was that pivot hard to do, and our decision with the departments we can do on the current service level with the expectation that could pivot, or are they just gonna go? You know what I mean?
It's only hard, and let's just continue with the 24 million because it's up there. Let's say we make these decisions and we get that number down to 16. The next council, if they want to increase it, they're gonna have to live with 24 million. And they're gonna have to revise.
They've got to come find the money somewhere to be able to do that.
Yeah, I just think they're gonna dream.
So some suggestions for roads. Take the next 5 years worth of priority and begin to go through this process. So that Ryan can begin to put together, the business case for each of those. I'm suggesting that the council do a road tour with the public works manager. It's fairly typical in municipalities to do a road tour, and it's suggested probably not the same facility on how you go. Evaluate each based upon the decision matrix, and we just added 2 more decisions. Make a decision, invite public input, But then we also need to think about, bulk tendering, joint tendering of the municipalities. How do we get those operating, or get those direct costs for capital down to a reasonable level? We're gonna buy 3 years worth of development. Are we going to combine 2 roads that intersect and do them under one contract, so to say, mobilization? So I think we need to look at the next 5 years, and that's kind of the process that I'm suggesting takes place, and probably should take place before the plan is final. Next, looking at bridges and culverts, and I know this is the elephant in the room, but again, we get to the same point, we replace light for height, reduce the load limit. Other solutions such as box culvert, modular bridges, and prefab. We already dipped our toes in the prefab road, and have 3 on border. Reduce lane widths, for a quiet country road with 9 homes on the other side. In the short span, you can reduce the bridge width, or completely eliminate. So again, take the first 5 years worth of bridges, and say 8 to 10 priority structures in a realistic manner. Go through that matrix and make a decision.
So now, we talked about the 20 to 30 year plan, and we're gonna look at 10 and 25 and 5. Does the province require us by the July 1st to have a certain plan in place for how many? This cost.
With a 10-year view, so 13.5 on the financing side.
So then that sort of helps us finish off our term, and we, for the next council, gets them into the term. And midway into the term, so they don't have to give it right away, and we start looking for the next.
Well, in a more realistic fashion, when you complete a year, you're
I
adding.
mean, also, wait, this is something we do every year.
So-
You're on.
Yeah, when you add a year, you're right back to what are the next
Okay.
ones, and we'll go through the matrix and make a decision.
Okay.
And again, you've got to look at your asset management plan as not being part of the stone. At some point, it may make sense to do 2 roads together. At some point, you may do 3 smaller stretches because they're connecting links to the downtown, or the pipes need to be replaced. It's giving you a starting point, but then council, in consultation with staff and our consultants, will say, here's how to get the best value from one. So don't just take the next one off the left and then get the vehicles. So for example, snowplow will last 10 years. But you can talk to the staff and they'll tell you that one there is never been as much trouble. We think we can get another 2 years out of it, and that one over there is about an should be on itself. On average, it's about it.
So can we say to the public works manager, looking at bridges and culverts? Again, I think you're recommending that we do 2. But can you, then the public works manager come back knowing his knowledge of each of those bridges and whatnot? This bridge can be changed to a culvert, okay? And this bridge, we can use a prefab installation. And this bridge, sorry, we gotta go the whole hog. Okay, and so then that starts to maybe shrink the amount of money that we're looking at in this particular category down some.
Yeah.
Don't you can do that?
Mayor, yeah, we can do that. And then these numbers, again, they're based on everything like for like replacement. Just to be clear on that, because these 3 bridges we are getting now, say we do 3 of these for 1.2, when they recommended it was going to be 4 or 5. So we can shave this down significantly.
Thank you.
And I think you take those 8 or 10 priority bridges and you put them on the matrix and you say, Jerkwater Lane, and could it be this? Smith Lane, could it be that? So council, when they get on the bus or at the meeting before, when we're talking about them, know what the potential option would be. There are several that will never be able to box culvert. There are several that you probably can't 1 million. But council will have the option.
I'll go ahead and come to this.
You look at the bridge culvert thing, you can calculate the headwaters that are accumulating to through that bridge, so it went be exactly the same size, or I think on Thomas or on Donald Brown, We had to put a large, into the head water. So we might. We might reach those numbers again.
Well, you know, and I think that the info is saying when we get them, we have that quality installation, so, or huge culvert. Huge threat, and just a fraction of the cost. That it was costing, they had to have that information before, a fraction of the cost, and the guys who work themselves don't come out of farther, like you're offering them, your team. And so.
I mean, not to mention the 911 meters of the building, all the meters.
So I think the volume of water is really, and what, determines, the water, you use it all.
Yeah, we should really have, so we definitely have to be quite sure.
So moving on to stormwater, and stormwater is a bit of a different cat, in that, you know, we're looking at linear assets and operating and everything, providing you with a study. But there's a number of different things you can do to reduce the size of pipes or to, you know, to channelize things rather than having them in place. So again, replace life for life, improve tension, so that you can decrease the size of the pipes, reduce runoff, capitalize channelization, investing in technology. A bit of an odd duck in terms of what, you know, what the other assets are, because it's far more of an engineering exercise, because it's how incorporation of projected rainfall. But there are opportunities to decrease that as well, just so we know that Aqua will be coming back with a price to do a rate study for that, so that it could be added as a rate for analysts and the village.
Number of places are now. The land available, the naturalization of these. Stormwater within the that tail.
Butterflies. Buildings and facilities, and this is one that, you know, at 38 million, again, I suspect that this identifies 40 buildings that we own. That's a lot of buildings. They're single purpose buildings for the most part. You know, so we go through the same matrix, replace life for life, ride it out to the end of its life, and decommission it, consolidate, invest in energy efficiency, demolition and sell or sell as is, other kinds of options. But this requires a bit of a larger picture look at, you know, how do we decrease the number of buildings? Fewer buildings, more multi-purpose, easier to staff, easier to maintain. New building is easier to maintain. Classify your buildings. Must be, would consider selling the decommission, could be consolidated into another building, decommission. And establish a maintenance threshold. So for example, you may say that Pender Hall, maximum amount will ever invest in that. Pender Memorial Hall, is that right? The maximum amount will ever invest in that is $10,000. $20,000 with that stated. Very that time.
Surely the hall would be sponsored, right? Sponsored. I have the name there.
Hence the memorial.
That's like, yeah.
So how do we build a modern municipal complex? You know, gotta build that community. What does shovel ready look like? You know, capital funding, each one of these projects that we're looking at, in order to get moved up the food chain for grants, you have to be shovel ready. And generally what that means is you're ready to go and you have a tender document. That's a huge investment for a multi-purpose means. And if you haven't been to Campbell, North Carolina, the Fester now, that's got their library, the theater, the rink, municipal offices, fire hall, and that, all in one location. That's a multi-million dollar building, but it allowed them to sell 8 or 10 other them. Consolidate. So one janitor can look after the whole thing. So build community support. What does shovel ready look like? What does the property, what's the property drawing, servicing, alternate construction methods such as design build, temperatures. And is it possible to consolidate options or operations? The kind of things that we need to think about. But that 38 million might be a $38 million building, but it reduces the overall capital It's like, yeah,
And the other thing is, going back to something, we're talking about so many different things, in terms of shared services. If we became the rec complex, like in what are these for office areas, but we have the rec complex with a pool, say a pool and curling rink and blue ice pads and gym and whatnot. We could become the regional. So that when in the design and development phase, we get input from our neighbors and they contribute to the overall cost of it. And then help contribute to the maintenance. And it becomes the hub for the area. Because there's been talk of, there's no need for everybody to have an arena and they're all dying. I mean, like that dying means getting cool. Okay, so let's look at something new. You know, and like, you know, but I mean, like, so this is this is the opportunity to talking about it. And I mentioned that this is something that we were looking into, not down the road. But it's like a 10-year project, whatever, but if we all start thinking about it now and get to that point where we are going to do that. Well, then maybe we got other people who can contribute to that.
and not to be too political, but in the current political environment, what's going to keep our economy going? Capital. And politicians generally prefer standing in front of beautiful recreation facilities in front of the street.
Even though that's what they feel.
I think the sound. So vehicles and equipment, again, replacing like for like, demo units in the used market and that's what we're doing this year. We got a demo grader. And we're going to be in the market for a used snowplow. Find for more versatile units, you know, something you can do a winter operation and a summer operation, so that you're putting hours on it rather than sitting. Consolidate operation, improve maintenance and extend the lifespan. A well-maintained truck will last longer. More fuel efficient options or accelerate. This is one of the areas that we're going to have to invest in. This vehicle, but I think we're gonna have to do this.
And this does not include fire.
Yes,
It does, yeah, to the 1.5 million or whatever that we get looking at. It's in that 7. No. Oh, no.
but it would have been in there at 2023 rates, which would probably say.
That's 1.7, yeah. Okay, okay.
So some suggestions, you do your road tour, visit public works yard with public works manager, talk to the staff who are actually in the seats. Evaluate equipment based upon the decision matrix. Consider both plan and joint planning of municipalities. Think of fleet model, holistic manner, including parts and recreation. And just a final reminder, staff with a safe, reliable vehicle, equipment will not see the community. When equipment is down, for staff. Public works traffic, what we need to do in the summertime. Parks and recreations down, for determining the breakdown. For example, in the office. Hot water tank in down.
Yeah.
So 3, 4, and 8 were water, wastewater, and solid waste. These are all supposed to be covered through rates. The last study that we did, full study was 2015. And I'll hold you surprise stuff back again. We should be capturing all of our capital within our rates. There's still a number of different things that we need to be doing, and CWA should be owed. Aqua, rather than SCWA, it's not the capital, it's association. I will be providing support to do a rate study. What is the community? It's always going to be gospel. What is the community response for rate increases and around basketball budgets? We've looked at the water and sewer rates for the municipalities. You know, that keep in mind the power rates. I try to keep in mind that on the water side, it's mandatory to the rate under general taxation. Other issues, Council knows we've got some improvements to make to the water treatment plant. Moving from analog additional to parts for the gizmotrons that are attached to them are all analog. with the digital, so we're working on that. We're supposed to set up failure and we're going to monitor. We are looking at a new well at some point. We've got the water rights issue with until at some point, and so I'm also looking at water mitigation.
We also have the, which I think you can find, yeah, that was mining and we have. Yeah, the patching, but you want to share that, that's really good.
So we're also required, and again, this is on an annual basis, to track and itemize the assets and report on holdings. So this reporting function will take in a year from this July, we're gonna have to say, here was our plan, here's what we did, we're on track. Or here's our plan, here's what we did, and we're above where we thought we were gonna be able to below, and why. So it's not just a, no, we didn't quite make it, you have to provide some sort of narrative as to why you didn't meet the.
How did we do that, though? Well, they say it's July, okay, now we have 6 months left in this budget. Okay, we've already said what our tax increases for the year. So does that mean that we have to follow in order to be able to do it? That we can't leave it all and get the first year done in the first 6 months of next year, because we're gonna be winter, they're gonna go into the spring, like, so, like.
So it needs to be tied to your financial plan so that you know what you're intending to do.
But our financial plan is done, our budget is done. So there's no room for us to add this kind of thing from the budget.
No, so here as part of your reporting, that's what July 1st. You would say, here's what we intended to do, this is what we budgeted for, this is what our asset management plan said we're going to do, and we met it. Or we did it because, the price came in at $400,000.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see what we're gonna have to commit to in our first year. See,
So I see what you're going at, but you could say, we met what we were going to do, I think, cost exceeded expectations, was not, that was viable explanation. Say we had a major failure, I think is what you were saying, we already budgeted to many maintenance items, all of a sudden. Something else pops up because of the maintenance item. Well, we met what we said we were gonna do, but it was gonna cost more because what we were going to do, like, do something else. And we didn't have the budget to get to that.
So you're gonna have to provide that in there, that's why you did it.
but like right now, we struck a budget for this year, okay, 15% tax increase. Not really doing any major significant things, maybe by dropping stuff like that. So we do our asset management plan, okay, I'm the financial aspect of our management plan. And it says, okay, the first year with asset management plan, is that, first of all, is the first year now going to be, say, July to June? Or is it going to coincide with our operational?
I think we can select because we have to specify, so I think we could say that. Our annual reporting period would be a year.
Okay, so then what we're looking at then for the first one is 6 months, so to speak, okay? Because if it's going to operate within our, our operational year, that would be December 31st. But say it comes out that according to that, even for that small period, we have to come up with dollars. These are the things that, according to that plan that we have just developed and we'll agree on, we have to do. Where do we get the $1 million? We can't go back to the taxpayer and the taxes. And are we going to start exceeding our debt limits? And we haven't even started really working on our asset management. So I'm trying to get a handle on this.
So at that point, the council would have to say that we did not need a plan to go $500,000 loan.
And we don't have, there's no way.
And we will move that project to 2027, 2026.
Which still kind of review, like you think, what we need to run our municipality and then now taking some, maybe I'm jumping the gun here, maybe I gotta wait and see what is coming down the pipeline before I get my neck into the twist here and start getting. Okay, so let's, okay, drop that, we'll put it aside for now.
So in terms of the tracking. Assets and reporting and forecasting. This is very specialized work, and we traditionally had a green do, and they do that. I think this is one of those things that really could be a joint service where one engineering technician or senior accounting person or the public works managers should be doing this work because it's detailed, it needs to be precise, it needs both technical and accounting expertise. And quite frankly, you know, it's really important work, so. Is there an opportunity to do direct services? The same thing with the change to total cost of ownership. So let's take some of the things that we did this year, with snowplow. So we're gonna have to adjust how we handle it so that we can evaluate what that truck is going to cost over a 10-year period. So a more fuel efficient snowplow may cost $10,000 more, but it's $5,000 less expensive. A building with R40 insulation may cost $100,000 more, but might save you $20,000 a year. In heat and lighting. So you're gonna have to make the decision based on the total life of the asset, not just on the.
What do you think, the maintenance on these vehicles is just on the bill, then I would say. It's too bad collectively the units all done well after it's used there. So we try to get the units on different ways. It needs to be clear. I bought a manufacturer and you never. And I think. Our engineering is said, that time the truck was out,
It's all that related.
it's all definitely, yeah. So it definitely doesn't work.
I think one of the things that Ryan recommended this year was the 5-year. How many hours? 5-year, how many hours? Comprehensive warranty on the grade.
Yep.
We know that graders fail early and fail late, but let's cover off that earlier. Frankly, if a 16-year-old grader, the engine blows, that's gonna cost them $100,000, like, what? We're selling scrap out. If it breaks in year 4, that's gonna cost us $140,000, a $20,000 warranty.
Well, yeah, that's why I think one thing is the technology that doesn't work, actually one of the cost factors is the technology. And I don't know that. Well, I do know that people can't do that because.
So community consultation, so, you know, we're back to the chicken and the egg, which comes first. Does council want staff to consider a draft, and we take that draft to the community and say, here is a starting point for discussion? Or you want to do a community survey, then do a draft, and then take that, or you know, the community survey, have a public open house, and then do it. You know, what kind of order do you want to go with? And we have samples from online surveys from Clinton West and Kingston. And we're looking at a public meeting format, where you can do the drop-in discussion, so it's more one-on-one, or you can do a presentation, questions coming.
What I would like to do is to do the questionnaire. I read the questionnaire that you thought before, and it's streamlined some that it looks like. But I think it's really good, probably give what's important for them. Which helps us in that. Then the other thing is that at the same time, I think it would be good to get some input from staff on, like, we talked about the concrete and what bridges might be called and stuff like that. So we can start extending all this information. So that the information from the survey, the information from the team that comes together. Okay, and then it's basically a presentation to us. And then we ask our questions, and perhaps suggest changes and whatnot. And then rather than doing it as a drop-in, we try that when we probably work which coaches we call. And that was a drop-in and come in and walk around and get show. And so what we ended up doing is we had to hold a town hall. So I would recommend we do a town hall with a formal presentation and then all of us there, again, to hear from the public. And I don't want it to be one of the, I will say, I was grateful what started off as a very rough meeting, but ended up being a very good meeting after all. And that's what I would like, it's more of an opportunity for residents to come in, listen to what we're presenting, so they get an understanding. Maybe there's two phases. One is the presentation with all of us there, so they can listen to what we're saying, take it away, and then 3 weeks later, we have another meeting where everybody can come back and share what they're thinking. So, and getting consultation out. But I don't want to do it just because it's raw, because even the drop in when we came to battery storage over in Sterling, there was a drop in and that turned into a real messy drop. So I think community skills are and information session with us.
So how be I draft a questionnaire for council's consideration? I think early in the new life of the new and through how the CAO. Do that tour and Ryan and Jay can start having that the assets by that matrix. And then bring all of that information to it.
And yes, we should arrange for that later. All of these things. So then we can, give everybody gets some thought to, like, I know you're like, kind of unique for example. But, so, with that time, it's gonna be good, like, you know, when's the calving done, so to speak.
Well, then we just.
We'll have to find out what works, really. Okay.
And then finally, there's this is a huge communications issue. This is fortunately or fortunately, depending on your perspective, it's going to happen about the same time that the recycling changeover happens. So they June, July period. So some things that I'm suggesting is that it's a provincial initiative. We must respond to the community. We have to take hold of this and embrace it as a way to see the vision for our community. We will continue to work towards sustainability, but there is no quick solution. I don't think that there's any hope in heck that we'll get the 13.5 million and like all big problems, as a portion of this is raise the bridge and a portion is fully the water. And that's going to be making the tough decisions. And we need to invest in building roads and bridges. But it's going to change in ways that maybe don't. Not everybody's in agreement with, but you have to have a plan going forward. We have confidence that at some point in the next 10, 15, 20 years, everything is sustainable at that range. So just a reminder, this is the same slide. And again, this is just a rough starting point. We know that increasing capital spending by about 10% a year will roughly get us there to 13.5 million in year 10. Having said that, we know the prices are going up faster than regular inflation. But by working through the decision matrix on each one of those, hopefully we can lower some of those numbers. So it will be required by the end of it, and it's going to be a significant part of the public consultation. You know, what does that number look like? And I took the 3.89 because that's the average tax increase over, if we've done a 3.89% increase since 2002, we'd be where we're at today, 6.26 million. And so that much is going to change to lower that number. So use that number going forward on the operations, but with 10% off the capital side, you're still under 5% per year for the 10 years. You're 4.5%. If that's what you know. You choose 5%, you're only at 4.28 million in 10 years. So that 5% makes a big difference. But it moves it moves the overall number from 4.95 to 4. By only increasing capital 1.8%. Just because the operating numbers change.
On the bid. I'm waiting for it.
First one,
Glasses empty.
in addition to what I'm putting for the next year. You're suggesting that we have a message start with a 3.89%. Related to capital, that's
No, related to operating.
well,
So operations tax levy increase, 3.89, 10% increase on the capital component would generate a 4.1% total increase. I would do a target.
it's about the need to. And then that we would spend that. That would be fun.
Yeah, so at that point. And keep in mind that I've included in the amounts that we're repaying, so that. Of the bag taggers, so that in year 3, it would be the 274 that we're repaying, the bag taggers are 27. And going forward, it would be another 370. So it really begins to pick up in years 5, 6, and 7. I'm saying instead of repatriating that amount back in the operating, we just convert it.
That's right. We would have. That you like.
Scratch. Oh, yeah, we don't need to make that
No.
decision. That's the order of magnitude that you're looking at. So next steps. We want to give staff a target on the operating side. We want to give a target on the capital side. Borrowing strategy, generally speaking, municipalities prefer 50% of the borrowing, 50% of the lifespan, recognizing that we have a cap of 15% of our total loan sources. And that number is going to be difficult, and I'm sure we want to compromise the service level for roads in order to increase service level for example. Follow the public institute consultation, look like, I think we've got to get up to do with it. And the water, wastewater, solid waste discussion. You'll be having that in the next couple of months.
Committing to the that's. Increase of 3.89, we have no idea if much. I know you said if we hadn't done that, then we get to that number would be a good point. But that was if we started back then. Now we're starting at today.
Yeah, the reason I put that in there is so that you can see the total impact. So what the taxpayers would feel would be that 4.8. So if that number goes up to 5, that number is going to go up as well. It became a matter now to summarize. So I will bring back a draft community questionnaire. Try to keep it to 8 with 10 questions max.
And I don't like this. I'm sure. Okay, that's right. We're gonna almost
And as soon as we have a confirmed CAO, we'll pick a date for a road tour, and we're looking at it.
Yeah.
Probably a council meeting.
Both, but definitely a company, because there's going to be questions results coming back, the staff input coming back, we're going to take a look, try and marry the two together. And then we're going to go out, we're going to use that, one is an information session where people can come and listen and talk. Take it away, think about it, and then come back and for, them down. I don't think just handing out the report or something without presenting it, people, we gotta make it so that people understand the intricacies of what we're talking about and whatnot, rather than jumping to conclusions. You good with that? Are you okay with those marching orders, everybody? Okay, thank you very much, Emily. It's hard to believe it, the age is here. But it's just around the corner. I'm not to say we got some need with it, but it's time to rub it the road.
Can I just suggest that we probably put that in the form of a motion to come to council meeting with a recommendation?
Yes, okay, then you would, okay, I think I can work with you on the consulting calendar. Any other questions? Anything from staff? Okay, thank you very much, Kelly. Appreciate you getting us in that.
Thanks, everybody.
Good teamwork.
Even the chief.
Even now. Kidding.
No, thanks, everybody.
Well, I guess he's used to putting in fires. Thank you very much, everybody at the fire. Okay, I'm going to,
Better than cut the wind.
Yeah. Can we move that, who seconded?
all right, now. Okay, Councilor Valiquette and Councilor Thomas here, all in favor. Thank you. Yeah, we move in a second to adjourn. Thank you, Councilor Beer, March. The result of council adjourn the meeting at Roy. All in favor. Let's wait today. Thank you very much, everybody.
We're not gonna do a road tour, post. World through that.
Oh, 800.
No, I mean like the people, so.
Oh, do I have to turn this off?
That's right.
Just a minute, turn this off.
Everybody.
Stop. share.
Lawn chair. Go in the back door. Yeah.
I don't know.
Follow it, my team.